Okay guys, today we're going to have some fun with loops. Now the first thing you might notice is this thing here that if you follow my videos, you've never seen this thing. Don't worry about it. We're going to have some fun with it at the end, but it's not necessary to understand to be able to watch the tutorial. This is mostly for people who are just starting and have not seen something like this. And if you have, you will realize what we're doing. So I have some integers as well. I is equal to 0. Let's go ahead and take away that for now, just to demonstrate something. We're just going to kind of ignore x for now. So we're going to start with my favorite loop. My favorite loop is a for loop. You just do it by starting, for, and then you have wrong parentheses. Parentheses. And so the first thing, you're going to have 3 sections in these parentheses separated by semicolons. So the first one is going to be assigning your variable, and you can choose not to do this, or you can assign any variable to whatever you want. So we're going to start with I is equal to 0. Okay? Semicolon. Now this is the condition for the loop. This loop will run as long as this is true. So as long as I is less than 10, that means we're going to run this loop. And then semicolon. This is a thing you can do to any variable. The way I'm doing it now is normally how these loops work. You normally use I as the driver for the loop. So that's how we're going to do it right now. We're going to do I is equal to, I is going to be plus plus. Now you might not have seen this, but just to make it simpler for if you haven't, that's the same thing as I is equal to I plus 1. That'll work pretty much just the same. So let's go down. Now, you normally use curly braces under loops. However, you don't have to if you're not doing more than one thing. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. You got printf, and then just as we always do, and I'm going to do %d, and you know what? I'm going to put a new line character right after it. That way it doesn't look so terrible when it prints so many. And let's do I. Okay, semicolon. And if I didn't do anything wrong, this should work. And it does. As you can see, it increases each time. And when it gets to 9, it stops. And so we might want to analyze why is that? Why does it not print 10? Well, it gets incremented at the end. So when it hits 10, it asks, is it less than 10? And it's not. So it doesn't print 10. So it asks the question each time it goes. Let's go on to another loop. This is actually a simpler loop. I use this loop for some things. While. It's a while loop. So same thing with the parentheses, where the only thing in these parentheses are going to be your condition. So it would be the same as the middle one in for. So let's do while I is less than 10, just like before. Okay, and the same thing with, we're going to need the brackets this time. Because let me show you what happens if I don't put them in. Well, I mean, I'm going to put them in, but let me show you what will happen if you just have one line worth of stuff. Printf, oh no. And then, of course, this here, and semicolon. So this is going to go like this. And as you can see, it just runs and runs and runs into infinity. It will never stop. This is what's known as an infinite loop, sorry. And so in a while loop, since you don't have that kind of I engine driving you in the top part, it's just the condition, that's all it is. You're going to have to use, an increment in here. And so I'm going to just use the normal increment I++. And once I do that, well, what did I do wrong there? Oh, I is less than 10. That's how it's going to run. I++. That should probably work. Oh, and see, that's the problem. I doesn't have a value, and that's the other thing the for loop doesn't do, is it doesn't actually assign a value. And so you can see why the while loop to me is a bit inferior to the for loop. It's basically the for loop without the glitz and glamour. But just to deal with this, I'm going to set I equal to 0, and then let's try it. Okay, now I got it. Well, I don't need to say oh no anymore. It actually works now. So you can see why the for loop to me is a lot easier to use, and it's the one I recommend to you to use. There's a lot of ways to run into problems like that with a while loop, because it only does that one thing. Now I'm going to show you a loop that I really dislike. This is the do while loop. I don't know why it exists, but here's how it goes. Do, whoops, do, and then you do the curly braces. Go down a few. Don't, I'm going to print F this, print F. Don't use this loop. I hate it. Okay, and let's do one of those, just, you know, I don't really care if it's ugly because I hate this loop. So, you don't actually, I don't believe you need the brackets either, but if we're just doing one line, well, we are going to need the brackets though, because this is just interesting. You can, you know, increment I wherever you want. And just to let you know, this would work the other way. You could decrement I to something. I is assigned to 0, so I'm going to increment it up to something. So let's do, it's do while. So you put while after that. It's basically a while loop where you have do before it. I really don't know why it exists, and it's just not my favorite thing in the world. So I is less than 10. And you have to put a semicolon after all this. So let's see how this works. It does work. And it's, I mean, it does work. It's just not a loop I'm particularly fond of. I just don't use it. So now let's do something fun with the loop. And for those who aren't, you know, familiar with arrays and all, this won't be much use. And I think you've got what you can out of the video so far. But my favorite loop, the for loop, I is equal to 0. Okay, semicolon, and then I'm gonna do while, well, let's see, my string is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, here's what I'm gonna do. I see the null terminator at the end of my string, so I'm just gonna do while thing I is not equal to, that might be something you haven't seen before. That is the not equal to right here. And it's just like equal to, where this is the opposite of that. It's testing if it's not equal to something. So while it's not equal to the null terminator, oops, that's not a 0, that's a 0. And so then I'm going to go I plus plus just like before. And I'm going to do printf. And I'm going to print the actual character within the array, percent C, and that's comma thing I. So this is a little fancier, you know, nothing super special, but let's see if it actually works. It does. It prints it out. And as you can see, I only have a print statement printing characters, and it stops when it hits this. So I guess my point is this doesn't have to be, you know, anything related to, well, this is related to I a little bit, but you can literally have anything here, anything here, anything here, and for the conditions in the other loops, that goes the same. It is completely your choice what you want to put in those places. Well, I hope this helps. Have a good night.
Snow Music Studio.